Hi there everybody, welcome to another video. In today's video I have this Vauxhall Zafira. This is a 2015 model 1.4 petrol engine, automatic. I'm going to be changing the oil and the oil filter. I'm also going to change the air filter. This is the air filter here that I've got, E2962Li, and this is the oil filter that I have, E611HD442. But as always, I would recommend you buy your parts according to your registration or chassis number, and that way you get the correct part for your car. Otherwise, sometimes depending on the year and whatnot, things can vary a little bit. So if you just go by my parts, you may get the wrong parts. Also, gonna top up some screen wash fluid and gonna check the coolant level and the coolant percentage of antifreeze. Now, I've already topped up my screen wash fluid. It goes in this tank here. Just open that and fill up the tank in there. So all I'm going to say about this is use the proper fluid. That way it's not going to freeze in winter. And also if you only use water in winter, it freezes. It can expand, crack the tank and whatnot, and obviously it won't come out the jets. And if you use water mixed with some washing up liquid, you're also just going to have a lot of foam forming, and then the wipers struggle to clean that. So just use the proper stuff. It's cheap enough, something like £5 for a 5-litre bottle, ready mixed, or you can buy concentrated as well, mix it yourself. But if you buy the ready mix one, top up your bottle and keep the rest in the boot luggage compartment, where then you can have it for topping up your screen wash fluid regularly. And having said that, we can move on to checking the coolant level and percentage of antifreeze. So your antifreeze expansion tank will be around the back here in this tank, and I've already opened my cap here, but if your engine is very hot, be careful when opening this cap. Open it slowly, keep a hand on it, or best wait for it to cool down, wait for the engine to cool down and then open the cap, because otherwise you can get really badly burned by coolant. And then it's a bit difficult to see here. Sometimes it's a good idea to shine a light. Right, so I'm just shining a light in there, and if you look at the tank from here, you can just about see the coolant there down at the bottom, the orange coolant there. So my coolant is a bit low, to be honest. It shouldn't be down there. It should be more up, somewhere up here. So that is something I'm gonna have to investigate a little bit, because there might be a coolant leak somewhere. It could be a minor leak because the tank is not empty and the car has come back after 1 year. So it could be a very small leak somewhere, and that's something I'm gonna have to look at. But if you're checking your tank and you haven't got the same issue as me, then expect your coolant to be at around this level, sort of, well, not this one, but the one that's at the back here. The one that's back here. This point here is a bit higher. So, and I can just about see the coolant. I'm gonna have to top it up as well. And the other thing is, you would use this little gadget here in order to check the percentage of antifreeze. I'm gonna see if I can suck anything. Maybe we got some, and that's gonna give you a temperature. This case is giving me around minus 20. Around minus 20. That means the temperature outside would have to be below minus 25 or so for that antifreeze to freeze, basically. So another thing, it's important to have antifreeze, because if you only have water will freeze in temperatures, cold temperatures, and it can damage your engine. So obviously it's a bit of a give and take situation here, because if you live in the North Pole, you're gonna need a lot more antifreeze to take up to -40 or more, -50, I don't know. If you're in a very hot country, you may not need as much antifreeze. However, you still want to have some, because antifreeze has agents that protect your engine from corrosion. So either way you want to have antifreeze, you just have to have either more or less, basically. Now we're going to move on from this to the engine oil and the oil filter, but I am going to have a look at whether I have a leak somewhere. Just something I wanted to clarify. This filter I have here is a pollen filter, not an air filter. But we're going to have a quick look at the air filter, see if it's nice and clean, or if it's in need of a change. And for the pollen filter, I'll make another video. So for the air filter, it's located under this cover. You need to open all these Phillips screws that are around. So there's a number of them. Open them all up, and then you can open this cover, and the air filter will be sitting there. Take it out, have a look. This is not bad at all. And then fit it back in there, close the screws, and be careful when closing these screws. They're only screwing into plastic, so if you tighten them too much, you're just going to damage the plastic. Okay, just another recommendation there is you can clean the box inside, obviously, if you find it very dirty. This car doesn't really drive much. It's only got 36,000 miles, so it's fairly clean usually. Right, next we're gonna do our oil and oil filter, and for the oil filter you need a 24mm socket, and the oil filter is just sitting here. That's where the housing for it is. Now I can actually see a bit of coolant on top of that. So that might be where the coolant is going. You can see the coolant there. Might be a very minor leak, but it could be leaking from this hose here. And well, anyway, we'll also pull the dipstick and open this cover. If we can. Right. Now, there will be oil inside of that housing of the filter, so you could just let it drain for a bit. Take that out and remove the filter as well. Right, let me just take the filter out. And I can see the coolant leak, which appears to be coming from this thermostat. This thermostat housing here. I can see the coolant there, but so anyway, that's gonna be something I'm gonna have to look into. Gonna have to replace that thermostat housing there, I think. Right, we got our filter out, pull the dipstick and open that cap. That's just gonna allow some air into the system when we drain it from underneath. Also, this car takes 4 liters of oil, and I'm gonna use 5 W30. So now I'm gonna get the car up and drain the oil. Looking at the car from underneath, we have the oil sump right here and the sump plug bolt here, and you're gonna need a 45 torques to open that bolt. Okay, so once you crack that open, we can then take the bolt out and make sure you have an oil pan to catch the oil. And remember, if your car's been running a lot, the oil can be very hot as well, so you can burn yourself, so just be aware of that. Now we're gonna let that drain, and while that is draining, we can prepare our oil filter housing here. So there is an O-ring. You will get a new O-ring in the kit. That's the filter there. We're going to push that in there after. So I've cleaned this. I've rinsed it with some brake cleaner, which is this one here I have. Just rinse the oil. It's very good for cleaning oil, the brake cleaner. And the O-ring we need to remove is sitting right here. So I just got my tool there for removing that O-ring there. You can see where it is. And just remember, when you fit the new one, remember to fit it in the same slot, basically. Right, let's try and get this out somehow. I don't know if I got the skill to do it with one hand, to be honest. I may definitely need my two hands. Or if I can get my finger in here, it might be easier. Okay, there we are. Then we have this other one. Again, just have to fit it in there. Obviously pull it. I may definitely need my two hands for this. I think so. And obviously, as I said, just make sure you get it around the correct groove. Then we're gonna, I usually add some multi-purpose grease around that O-ring. Just a little bit. You can add some of the oil that you're going to use for the car and just put it on there. Not a big deal. And push that in there. So that is ready for fitting back. I should really clean this a little bit here. That's where the coolant leak is. It's actually leaking from the thermostat housing, which I'm gonna have to replace later. We're also going to rinse this and give it a clean. That's just the sun plug bolt there. Okay, the oil has finished dripping. We can get our nicely clean sun plug bolt back in there. There is no actual copper washer or washer on this. I mean, there is that O-ring on it. So as long as you clean it and it's not damaged, then you can put it back on. Otherwise, I guess with this kind of thing, if that O-ring was a bit damaged, maybe you have to replace this bolt. And I'm just going to, so I've got my torque wrench here. And I've torqued that to 35 Newton meters. And now we can rinse this with some brake cleaner. And that's it. That way you leave it nice and clean, and you know, if next year you find some oil here, maybe it's time to change that bolt there. And now we're gonna lower the car and top up some oil and put our oil filter back on. Now actually, something I just noticed, even though I torque this to 35 Newton meters, there is actually a reading here that says, it actually says 14 Newton meters, which is a very low amount of force. But there you are. You've been warned. 14 Newton meters. I did 35 and it felt like nothing. So anyway, it is what it is. So there you are. I should have read that myself. So you can just see how we can all make mistakes. So anyway, now I'm going to load the car. Time to get our oil filter back in there. So that just goes from the back here in there, and I'm just going to screw it in by hand as much as I can. Make sure it's going in the correct way, that way we're not damaging the thread or anything. So that's as much as I can put it in by hand. Now I'm going to use my tool. Usually that gets tightened to 25 Newton meters. That's our filter back on, and on top of that cover usually it says how much force to tighten that to. So have a look and use your torque wrench if you have one. Now we're going to top up some oil. This car takes 4 liters. I'm going to use 5W30. Our dipstick here also, if you have a look, there are 2 marks, like a minimum and a maximum. So we're aiming to be in this area here as we're just changing the oil. So when I first put the 4 liters, we might have more oil showing in here, up to here, or who knows. But once you run the engine, some of the oil goes into the filter housing and stays there. The next time you check this, it will be at the correct level. So let's get some oil in. Got my 4 liters in there. I'm gonna close this cover and we're gonna check. So I clean my dipstick so it looks nice and clean, and that way we can know how much oil we have. Okay, so you may be able to see that the oil is just above the max, so it's somewhere here, which is what I was expecting. And now we can put this back. We're going to start the engine. So I am happy with the level of the oil. We can start the engine, and just to recap, we close this, we close that, we close our filter, and we got oil. So now we can start the car. Right, let's get the car going. Car's running okay. There's no warning lamps here. So happy days. Okay, so now I'm also going to reset the change the oil message that comes up here. We should see that in a minute, or we can, yeah, change engine oil soon, it says. So in order to reset that, we need to navigate with these arrows here, like so. So if you go to the, where it says, well, let's go to the menu here, and then we're gonna go to the oil, which is that there, and then you press the set button once, and then go up to yes with these arrows, and then press the set button, and then that is going to change to 100%. And that's pretty much it. So having said that, I hope the video helps. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next video. So thank you for watching.